If you consider yourself an Xbox or Halo fan, you're probably aware that Halo Infinite, the next installment in the series, was delayed from its release alongside the Xbox Series X from November of 2020 to December of 2021. You'll also likely know that today, November 15th, marks the 20th anniversary of the entire franchise, as on this day in 2001, the first game, Halo Combat Evolved, released. So, in celebration of this anniversary and the impending release of Infinite, we're going to start at the beginning by covering the uniforms and armor worn by the Marines of the Pillar of Autumn. Now, we're going to assume most people watching this video know the story of Halo, but for those who don't or need a refresher, we'll do a quick summary of the events leading up to the first game. Humanity has been at war since 2525. When they first encountered a coalition of alien races collectively known as the Covenant. With the goal of exterminating all of humanity due to it nullifying the religion of worshipping a long-extinct race known as the Forerunners, often through the structures and relics they left behind, the Covenant has slowly been making its way through the smaller, more remote colonies. Skip forward to 2552, the largest human colony planet, Reach, has just fallen, and the UNSC frigate, the Pillar of Autumn, has made an emergency slipspace jump leading them to one of the Forerunner structures referred to as Halo, later known as Installation 04. From there, Spartan John 117, better known as the Master Chief, and the remaining survivors of the ship must fight for control of Halo or risk it activating, causing the eradication of all life within a 25,000 light-year radius. Assisting the Chief are swarms of Marines sporting pretty unique armor and uniforms. Now, the Halo universe and its history is pretty vast and intricate, so if you want to learn more about it, there are quite a few videos going over its lore both game and expanded universe-wise. Anyway though, the Marines in the original Halo game stand out quite a bit as they wear plate armor that seems to take a direct influence from the Marines of the Alien franchise. So we'll be looking at their armor from the original rather than the 10th anniversary remake, which will be covered at a later time. Now, there are a few approaches to recreating this armor. You could use foam, 3D printed pieces, or Pepakura models, and if you wanted to go all out, actual metal. In this video, we'll be going over the pieces, talking about resources, and how to source or make everything you'll need. Additionally, since the metal route hasn't really been done in any major way, at least as far as we know, we decided to go big with our inaugural Halo video by doing just that. So keep an eye out for our first complete build video, which will be uploaded not too long from now. But in the meantime, let's start with the basics. The Marines can be seen wearing two uniform types, which essentially boil down to with or without armor. For either, you're going to need a base uniform, which appears to be a basic light gray set of fatigues. Now, there are a few ways you can approach this depending on what type of Marine and how much you want to spend on the pieces. The easiest and cheapest way is to just grab some commercial BDUs, as the pants on the armorless ones include a single cargo pocket on each thigh. But when looking at them, you'll notice on the knees some sort of small pad. This may be integrated padding or a method of attaching the armor. A pair of G3 style pants such as Emerson or Cry are a good way to go, as they include a slot for padding that looks very similar. Just know that these often include more pockets, zippers, and straps for other items. Now, the toy company Joyride released a few character figures from the game, 3 of which were Marines. Their uniform color appears a bit more greenish gray, so you could go that route too, as it's open to interpretation. If you do, just adjust anything that's light gray to the greenish gray accordingly. Anyway, some of the Marines went hat or helmetless, while others either wore patrol caps, boonie or bucket hats, or a tightly worn bandana or do-rag. The patrol caps sported some sort of emblem, which is a little tricky to identify as the original graphics leave a lot to be desired. Upon close inspection, it appears to be some form of eagle with a bright yellow scroll underneath it, which features the letters that look to spell out RAC 4. What this means is anyone's guess, so your best bet for it is either a UNSC emblem of some sort, sometimes referred to as the EGB, or Eagle Globe and Banner, play on the real-world US Marine Corps' Eagle Globe and Anchor symbol, be it a pin in either black or gold, or a patch with the same emblem. If you want to be extremely accurate with these, take note, as there are technically 4 versions of the emblem. The first 2 versions appear in tandem with one another, with the only difference being UNSC versus UNSC-DF. These are considered the war-era emblems, being seen up until 2552. One of these 2 would be the most accurate in this case. The third version was first seen in late 2552, which updated it in a massive way. It continued into 2560 when the 4th version appeared, which was much like the original but given a more streamlined appearance. Numerous pins and patches can be found, but just know that they come in varying sizes, shapes, and with some saying UNSC and others UNSC-DF. For the Boonie, it didn't include any emblem but featured a sort of trapezoidal shape on its front. To be extremely accurate, just cut one out and sew it on. These appeared to be shallower brimmed ones, so you can alternatively look at bucket or fisherman style caps as well. For the bandana, these are pretty easy, just find one that closely matches the color of the uniform you end up going with. If you didn't want to worry about forming and tying it, gray do-rags can be found very easily. Now, every Marine had a pair of boots. Judging from the front, it had 2 clips or straps on the shin section and one on the actual foot. 2 options that would fit the bill would be black tanker boots that include a strap that wraps around the ankle and a single on the foot. The other, which would probably look the part a little bit better, are a pair of shorter motocross or ATV boots. There are quite a few options out there, many of which require a little modification. 2 brands that make models that work are Fly Maverick and O'Neill. Now, those were more or less all the universal components one would need for either version, so to finish off the armorless Marines, we must look to the interesting vests they wear. Viewing it up close, it appears to be an amalgamation of some form of body armor or flak vest and either pouches or presumably some form of system that relates to the attachment of the armor. When looking at its overall design, it features on the front and sides a right to left main securing flap, 4 pockets, 2 on the front waist and 1 on either side, and 6 almost triangular shaped black objects along the upper section, 3 on each side of the torso. The back is its own thing as it seems to be separated into an upper and lower section. The upper looks a bit built out, seeing 2 flaps at the top presumably as openings for pouches, with 3 rectangular sections which look to be some form of electronics, while the lower appears to be just a basic pocket. The middle is separated by a single black band which is likely some sort of fastening or securing strap. So in short, the vest is perhaps the most involving aspect of the Marine's uniform, requiring the most work to assemble. A good and cheap base item one could use to begin with is a US Pasget vest cover, as they are lightweight and easy to source. They would be relatively easy to modify, but if you want to go the extra mile, the second or third USMC M1955 flak vests appear to be very close in overall looks. These, though, are a bit challenging to source and will put you back quite a bit of money, plus converting harder to find original items doesn't go over well with collectors very often. Anyway, regarding the 6 black shapes, there are quite a few methods of creating these, but the quickest is probably by way of foam padding. A more outlandish approach would be securing climbing wall holds, as a few come in similar shapes, fit that sort of odd design, and can be secured to strapping via a screw or through other means. Lastly, the side pouches are pretty straightforward, seen in a smaller rectangular shape. Sourcing pouches like these would be pretty easy, you would just want to make sure to match the vest's fabric. For the back, you'll have to fashion 3 pockets. The lower looks similar in shape and appearance to older US M16 rifle cleaning kit pouches, which could be used as a basis for the design, while the upper that's split would likely have to be done from scratch with something like 3 different size circuit boards or kit bashed greebles playing the part of what is likely some form of electronics as mentioned just before. Now, before we get to the armor, let's quickly cover the weapons the Marines used. For just about all of these, there are a few avenues you can go, ranging from 3D printed to Pepakura and foam, to just getting replica ones through places like Etsy or the RPF, to name a few. We'll talk more about resources at the end of the video. But aside from Covenant weapons, the go-to firearms of the Marines were the MA5B assault rifle and the M60 Magnum pistol, but they were also spotted using the M90 shotgun, as well as the SRS 99C-S2AM sniper rifle, and finally the M9 high-explosive dual-purpose frag grenade. Technically speaking, they didn't use the M41 SP-NKR or Spunker rocket launcher, but we'll throw it in for good measure. Due to the nature of game franchises often spanning years, if not decades, graphics improve, but sometimes character and game assets stay the same. Halo is no exception, and one of the most prevalent examples are the weapons. So for the sake of continuity and sanity, we'll be talking about the Combat Evolved version of these weapons. With a number of variants and versions of the assault rifle, the MA5B is one of the earliest continuity-wise, but is perhaps the least seen in prop form, so you'll need to search Halo Assault Rifle and inspect the ones offered. The M60 Magnum pistol or hand cannon, due to its massive stopping power, has seen a few versions throughout the games being updated and even replaced a few times. Again, when searching, just make sure it's the Combat Evolved version. The M90 shotgun is a bit of an odd one since its design wasn't changed all that much between the first few Halo games. The main factors that differentiate the Combat Evolved versions are the blue iron sights, a smooth barrel, and a chrome finish. Now, the sniper rifle in the game is arguably the largest as far as length and scope width, so just keep an eye out as most of the games had its own version of the rifle. The rocket launcher between most of the Halo games had very minor changes, so you'll likely find higher quality files or replicas out there. Any will do as they keep the recognizable shape, just make sure it's not the M57 Pullum, which was introduced in Halo 5 Guardians. Finally, we have the M9 grenades, which kept the same designation throughout all of the games, but changed appearances a number of times. The CE version has a basic, smooth and circular design, whereas just about every other one included the pineapple texture, though many see the differences as trivial. Other versions of these weapons, specifically Halo 3 and newer, are far more prevalent and thus easier to source. Now we've reached it, the Armored Marines. Aside from the actual metal pieces and their webbing to wear, these Marines also had a sort of neck gaiter. Though it's hard to determine whether it was actually incorporated into the jacket, there are a few different ways you can go about recreating this look. The most likely case was that it was a part of an overgarment of some sort used to hold all the torso plates in place. Whether that connects to the odd vest mentioned earlier is anyone's guess. Anyway though, something like this can either be made or bought in the form of a paintball or airsoft padding system, or even a molly plate carrier vest. For the neck portion, you can either find one with a high collar section, get something like a separate throat protector, or balaclava with a chest bib section that will tuck under the vest and jacket. With all that out of the way, we can finally break down the components of the actual armor pieces. So we have the helmet, shoulder and gauntlet pieces, which were seen on the arms, the upper and lower back sections, the main chest piece, the side waist kidney pieces, the front buckle, the upper and lower thigh pieces, and finally the shin guards. For a while now, there's really only been one set of files for these, which can be printed for Pepakura or converted into foam. However, the issue is that they seem to be extracted portions from the game assets, which essentially means they're not complete and aren't separated into the actual pieces, but rather portions of the body. Seeing this, we commissioned CYN Props to design these in a more accurate way. Thanks to them, they were able to create both 3D files for printing, as well as Pepakura ones that can be used to make paper or foam-based ones. A link to them will be available in the description for anyone who'd like to use them. Also, if you're ever looking to have armor or costume pieces designed, be sure to check them out on Instagram. Link to their account can be found in the description as well. Whatever files you end up using, remember to rescale the dimensions to best fit you, as certain pieces may initially be too large or too small. Now, regarding the upper thigh portion, in-game they appear to be almost a part of the pants, being made of some sort of padding or thicker fabric, while in the Joyride figures they're metal armored pieces. So this means it's up to interpretation, as you can go either way. Now, it's worth pointing out the helmets, as they are one of the more elaborate portions of the armor, as they include a green heads-up display over the right eye, a built-in microphone on the lower right section, and in some instances, such as with Private Jenkins, the wearer's last name painted on white on the lower back. For the HUD, a good option is a neon green piece of acrylic. You can then etch a design into it and backlight it with a pair of LEDs. For the microphone, an old headset mouthpiece can be used. For the last name on the back, it appears to be only seen during the specific Jenkins cutscene, but if you wanted to add yours or any others, you'll just need to make a stencil using a slightly modified version of Stencella font. The font has the correct character shapes, but as you can see when Jenkins is spelled out, the splits throughout are slightly different. Finally, the last portion that would need to be done is obviously painting, weathering, and strapping to attach everything, which will come down to your body size and shape, and is sort of open to interpretation, as not much is seen on the character models. If you need any kind of ideas, look to our build video. This pretty much brings us to the resources, as we've more or less covered all the elements of the Marines' uniforms and armor. As mentioned, the 405th is a great place to start, as they are the go-to Halo group with different detachments all over the world. Apart from their website and forums, they also have a few different Facebook pages and groups that can provide even more help and info, such as build parties, events, and so on. Additionally, the Facebook group Halo Props has a wealth of information regarding props and costumes, both where to find them and how to make them. Finally is the Replica Prop Forum, which as always is a go-to place for props and costumes of all sorts. Well, that'll about do it for the original Halo Combat Evolved Marines. Make sure to keep an eye out for our full metal build video if you want to see a more meticulous and detailed breakdown of the pieces and how we approach creating the uniform and armor. Anyway, thanks for watching. As always, be sure to subscribe or check back soon for more uniforms of the screen right here on Uniform History.
Am I right, Marines?
Sir, yes, sir!
Damn right I am.